connection between whatever the new thing is and something else that I already know. And I think that I do best when I can either see a model of whatever it is, or I can do like more than one input. Like if I'm reading about something, I also have to read it out loud to myself. Or if I'm reading about something, I'll also have to write it down or something like that.
I like to have access to all the material that I can gather by myself and be able to sort of process and work through everything at my own pace, and basically sort of tackle it from as many sides as possible. Like rather than one source, I'd rather be able to read multiple sources about the same thing to sort of see if there's any extra information that one might be able to give than the other, and sort of disseminate it. Like work through the information that way, as opposed to learning from one source. If it's something that maybe has room for interpretation.
I learned how to put windows in and do aluminum siding and aluminum trim work on my first house.
Okay. How did you learn how to do that?
I was forced into it.
Okay.
Because the guy who previously did the job was so bad at what he left behind.
Okay.
I learned about it from Johnny.
So, someone that worked in the field.
Right.
How did you go about learning how to do it? Did he just explain it to you and you tried it, or did you watch him how to do it?
All that.
Okay.
So I decided that I wanted to build my own arcade at home. So I wanted to go about the whole process from the ground up. And some of the stuff that like I had to learn how, because there's new computing software that doesn't rely on the stuff that arcades did, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So I had to learn how new things work that can translate that old information into new ways that computers work now. Now the fun part that I'm still working on is actually building the structure around it, like the actual arcade cabinet. But that stuff, that wasn't new. I cut wood and painted wood and put all the stuff together before, so that's a little bit easier. All the computing stuff was a lot different and new to me. A lot of YouTube tutorials and a lot of online instructions and step-by-steps, basically cutting and pasting all the stuff that I wanted to see in mine from other sources to make it personalized for me. People that actually developed it, people that tinkered with certain things to make it function a little bit different and just sort of tweak stuff. And then people that just were kind enough to put instructions out there and tutorials for other people like me to learn how to do stuff that they had done before. I read through other people's posts. I don't think that I ever had to make one, because I think a lot of the same questions that I had already been asked. So I was already able to find most of the stuff that I was looking for.
On message boards.
Yeah, on message boards. And like there's like Reddit has a community for something like that. So by the end I was actually able to answer questions for other people, because they were asking stuff that I had wondered before and I had figured out. So I was actually able to send some of the stuff that I've learned to them, so that hopefully it helped them do the same stuff.
In my grad classes, like sitting in a lot of our classes, we were in a cohort, so we would be at the same place in our county. So a lot of our classes were in this one elementary school in their media center. So we were all sitting at big tables, and the professor would have her stuff up on the big screen, and it was very like lecture style. Which when it was my classmates up there presenting, it was interesting, but none of us really like to be lectured to.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was the teacher, it was more like, okay, tell us what to do so then we can move past this little segment. I think in those classes, I learned a lot more either from when it was my classmates, like teaching us something new, or if I was working on a project in that setting, or if I was working on it informally, like at home, like doing research and writing things down and figuring out what I thought was like the important parts.
I had like this one instructor in college. His name was George. He was fantastic and very supportive and very encouraging of people's creativity, because it was an art class, and it was just sort of like, compared to the other teachers, they sort of wanted you to like do the stuff that they were doing, and you had to put out the stuff that they wanted. This was like so wide open that to me it was like very, very encouraging, because it felt like that's what we were supposed to be doing there the whole time. He was a very cool teacher. The assignments, I mean, they were basically just a very small, like, I want you to achieve this while using this function, right? But it was so wide open, there was no, it could go any way. So like my own, whatever stuff that I was actually interested in could have been put into that, as long as I used these very loose parameters, because he wanted us to learn a program or a function of a program. So whatever actually interested me, even if I wasn't interested in the program, my interests were still in there, so I was engaged the entire time, because it was something that I wanted to do, or it was something that I wanted to see. And then the opposite of that was my photography lecture class, which was in a dark room. It was 2 hours long, 3 times a week, and the guy just talked into a microphone, and we were supposed to take notes, but really all I could do was try not to fall asleep.
For formal, I just really think of like structure, and that it's really directed, and there's a specific outcome that you're looking for. And with informal, it's more like exploring and discussing and questioning are really what I thought about.
When you're doing informal learning, who is running the show?
Me.
You are pursuing your own knowledge.
Yeah.
Who determines what determines what knowledge you need to look for or figure out?
Whatever I'm trying to find out for my own personal interest, or how to perform a job.
Okay. Do you do more informal learning or formal?
Informal.
Why do you think so?
I do formal learning at work. There's training every month, but most of the training that they give me doesn't have to do anything with what job I do.
So you feel like it's not really worth you to do that formal kind of training, because you don't really need to know.
I get some stuff out of it that I need to know, but I mean, they've trained me in the different types of carpet and what you get the best wear out of, and it just doesn't register, because I don't want to know it.
Why don't you want to know it?
Because basically I was forced into this job.
Okay. So it's not something you're passionate about.
Right. If I repetitively did it every day, then I would remember it.
Okay. So would you argue learning about music is informal learning?
I don't forget nothing about history or about music.
You think that you remember that, but you don't remember?
Because I'm interested in it.
Okay.
A lot has to do with self-confidence, because like Lincoln Avenue, we had these cheap-ass basement windows, took them out, put new windows in myself, had nobody to help me.
So you just had to do it?
No, I wanted to learn how to do it.
Okay.
Like that.
Do you think that you have confidence in music and history?
Yeah,
How do you know that?
because I know the answers to questions.
Now at this point in my life, I'm so far removed from formal education that it's weird. I feel like it would be weird to sit in the classroom and learn.
Why?
Because I prefer to be working by myself so much more now. I do like the ability to like ask a question if I have it, but I don't like to just sit and listen. I'd rather sit by myself and read the whole thing
So
and work through it by myself.
when you feel like you're in more of a formal setting, like who is creating the knowledge, or who is leading the learning process?
The teacher.
And how is it different in informal? Like who's the driver?
Because, well, I'd rather be the driver.
Why?
So obviously I wouldn't have the information. I would have to get it from someplace. But I feel like if I was able to work through all of it by myself, even if I don't understand it right away, if I try and make a mistake and go back and start over and try again and start over, I'm learning by messing up a couple times. And then if I get to a point where I just can't get forward, then it'll be fantastic to be able to ask a question. But if I can do it at my own pace and my own way, I think that's how I would prefer to do it.
For something that was successful, I was thinking about like what has been more recent formal. And I was thinking about like the PDs that we have to go to for our curriculum and stuff. And when we get to like, so if they're teaching us how to use a new like online resource, getting to actually log in and use it in front of the teacher is really helpful. Or when they're teaching us like a new reading program, being able to see how it applies specifically to the kids I'm teaching really helps.
When we were redoing the bathroom, I had to actually install a toilet. I've never done that before. I've never worked on one ever. And now I've actually installed 3 toilets. And I think I know how the entire thing works. It's not even that complicated, but it seems like it. Well, parts of how it works I had already known from before, like just replacing other small parts on it, but actually putting a whole toilet into place, it sounds so weird to talk about, but actually putting one into place I had never done. So I actually read how every part of it worked, and then I read how it connects to like your sewage pipe. It's so weird to talk about, but your sewage pipe, that's how it leaves your house, and then what the pieces that connect it, what their purpose is and how they're supposed to work. So I pretty much understood how each piece worked and what they were supposed to do, and I seriously spent like 3 weeks reading everything that I could about the whole thing. Probably over reading.
Okay. So you drew in from like previous experience. What caused you, or what motivated you to learn how to do this?
Not paying someone to do it.
So being able to like do something yourself, was your real motivation.
I said, if you have an interest in something, you're going to read about it or hear about it, and it's going to stay with you. You're not going to forget it. But if they're shoving all kinds of stuff down your throat that really doesn't matter to you, like you know how to do the job, but you don't know specifically exactly what the number is of the part that you need.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if it's something that you're more likely to pursue it yourself if you have an interest in it as well.
Right.
When I was doing Whole30, I had to learn basically how to cook. So with that, I decided that like I learned just by a lot of practice because I had to cook every day for 30 days.
Okay.
And I went on Pinterest for recipes and other websites and stuff, and I had realized that I needed to pay more attention to timing in cooking. And the more I thought about that, I was like, it's kind of true for everything, that the timing helps with everything. Well, so my sister-in-law and I did it at the same time. So my sister-in-law, Kate, and I did Whole 30 at the same time. So we would text back and forth a lot to like support each other, and then like she let me know like extra like cooking fats that I could use and stuff like that. And then on Reddit there's like a weight loss community, so I would just like read other people's ideas, but I didn't really like ask direct questions, but just would like read people's thoughts.
Do you feel like that helped?
Yeah.
Like it was like motivating and stuff?
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, if I had done it all by myself, it wouldn't have happened.
Okay.
I tried to learn Hindi. I wanted to learn a new language to speak with people at work, and it didn't work at all. Didn't take.
All right, how'd you go about doing that?
I downloaded an audiobook on like Hindi for beginners. Lesson 1. Didn't work. I think it's a little bit too complex to do without being able to ask any information, because it got to a point where like a lot of the words sounded very similar, and I, without any experience before, picking up all the subtle nuances is just difficult. So I want to be able to clarify, like, am I saying this correctly, or did I hear it correctly? And you don't get any sort of feedback through a tape. It just keeps on rolling, and then if you don't get past this block, the next part of the lesson builds off of that, so you can't go any further.